So Jake, funny thing happened to a mate of mine. We actually might have to get him on the Magoos in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
Let me just set the scene. He works for a building construction company called Multiplex.
Okay.
Are
they
the last few months,
sponsoring? Just before you're too far, are they sponsoring us?
They will be after.
Okay. Well, I was going to say let's not use brand names unless they're sponsoring us. But
Okay.
go on.
So they work for, and they run this competition during lunchtime. They play cornhole all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
You know that game? You basically just got to throw it in a hole.
Yeah.
So, and they decided after a while that there was a few people that were pretty good at it. So they ran a competition, and then the winners after like a month or something like that had to go. Not had to, but they got the chance.
They were forced into a crate.
They got the chance to go to Alabama.
Oh wow!
To represent Australia in the World Cornhole Championships.
It's incredible.
Incredible.
How does that even?
Lo and behold, one of my friends won it, and he is in Alabama as we speak.
Shut the front gate.
Competing in the World Championships for cornhole. Now I've just got a little clip that on the news over there.
Now, I'm sure you've played the game at a tailgate party or two or a family reunion. It's a game that is on the rise, and I'm talking about cornhole. And at the Crampton Bowl Multiplex this week, it's home to the American Cornhole Organization World Championships. Now, we dropped by the Multiplex today to see how things are setting up with all the action beginning tomorrow for the next 5 days. There's singles, doubles, juniors, and senior divisions competing for $68,000.
Wow.
We have players coming in from 30-plus states. We actually have 9 Australians that came out there this
Oh,
year.
no.
So it is truly a World Championships here in Montgomery.
So they just called it a World Championship. They just called it a World Championships, regardless. Typical America.
And 9 Australians.
Incredible, isn't it?
Incredible.
Ben, welcome to you and to all our loyal listeners here to the round 19 episode of the Magoo. Is that right? 19?
Yeah, we're going into 19. Yeah. I wrote it down.
Yeah, you're right. It is round 19. Yeah. Oh, I struggle with that.
That's right, yes, because we're sort of in the middle between the two rounds.
That's not it. I just don't know what's what's upcoming.
Welcome.
So we've made an effort today to ensure that there's no post Anthony Koutafidis hangover. We've put a lot of work into this show. There's no guest, but just the very best that we can bring. We've promised each other that we're going to deliver today, purely on the fact that Anthony Koutafidis was really good last week, and we can't afford to lull.
We can't drop the
so
ball.
We have to be on our game.
And it was a great episode as well. I've really enjoyed that.
It's a crack, wasn't it?
Back to Kuda. Had a lot to say, and it was great.
It was
and then he was on the footy show a couple of nights later.
So straight away the footy show saw how good he was on the Magoos and thought,
before we even
get
had
involved.
a chance to edit and put it up.
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah, spies everywhere. We are obviously audio only at the moment. Again, Jack not here to work the camera, which means the camera doesn't work, which is something we'll probably have to look into for the budget at some stage.
That's all right.
If we hadn't spent it all on corn at the start of the year. But yeah, so stick with us, YouTube viewers. We'll have a few little snippets throughout this video here that you're watching to sort of give you a little bit of a visual representation of the show, to sort of entertain, keep you on track. So stay with us. If you're listening to us through audio only, then business as usual for you.
And
business
how about Metro Trains, what you're probably listening to us on.
Yeah, God, I bet your train was delayed. Seriously.
Bloody hell.
The footy, Ben. The footy.
Let's talk about it. We've got a couple teams that are obviously fighting for the finals.
Just a couple want to play in the top 8
Only
this year.
8 can make it this year, as last year and the year before that. But I want to talk to... Okay, I sort of will admit... I don't want to say defeat, but I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head a couple of weeks back.
Sounds like me.
You smiling.
It sounds
over
like
there.
me. It sounds like me
You know
being
what I'm
correct.
talking about,
Sounds
don't
like
you?
me. Which one was it? Essendon not making the finals? Was it that one?
No.
Oh, it was something else. Correct,
Well,
I said.
Yes, it was the Sleeping Giants.
The Sleeping Giants.
How are they travelling?
They're going to make the top 4.
I tend to agree.
And it's great for those people. I mean, I've also said another couple of other wacky things over my time that...
Yeah, but you only go the ones that you got correct.
Right, yeah, that's very true.
The ones you didn't.
So, yeah, they're going to make the top 4 and they'll get the opportunity to probably lose to Richmond twice in a month. So.
Yeah. So they're sitting 6, 2 points behind Port and Sydney. But their run home, they've got St Kilda this week. Then they've got your mob, Carlton, at the G. Adelaide, Sydney, and then Melbourne. Based on their form, I'd say they'd win 3 of the 5.
They'll need to win 4 to make the top 4.
You think?
Yeah, but they will win 4, I think. Yeah. On their own alley rink, they're hard to beat up there at Spotless.
They are, yeah. And plus Sydney, not sure how they're travelling at the moment too. I think it's 3 weeks from now, but they had a loss on the weekend to the
Sydney,
Suns.
interesting. They, in such a tight competition that you lose to the Suns, but yet you don't lose your top 4 spot. Like everything else sort of fell into place around them.
Yeah, I mean Geelong had a win and they dropped a play.
Yeah, they went. Yeah, it's just
go figure.
just bizarre.
That is bizarre. But what about Geelong? I actually said at the start of the year that a lot of teams had them top 4. And one of my bold calls was not only not top 4, I don't think they're going to make the 8.
Well, they're out of the 8 at the moment, but they will make the 8.
They will, do you think? They got Brisbane this week. Then they got Richmond, Hawthorn, Freo, and then finish off with the Suns.
The game against Hawthorn will be a big one. Those two obviously usually really bring it for their games.
Hawthorn are sitting 8th at the moment on the same points. That could be an absolute. Yeah,
it could be a
whoever
crack.
Wins makes final sort of type setup.
Yeah. What'd you make of Melbourne?
Jeez, I don't know. They lost that game on the weekend against Geelong.
That's correct.
Geelong didn't. Well, obviously Geelong snatched it, but Melbourne had every opportunity to really seal that game.
I was watching it with a diehard Melbourne supporter, and it was the funniest thing. Yeah, I swear to God. This is also the same bloke that was carrying on when they beat Adelaide by 150 points early in the year, saying finally we're the real deal and stuff. So
yeah,
swings and roundabouts, doesn't
it? They have such a great list though. I reckon up and coming still, good spine, a lot of good role players, but they just don't have that get it done sort of mentality yet, like Geelong do.
Yeah, it's very strange, isn't it? But I mean, they'll still make the finals.
I think
a lot of teams are saying they'll drop out. I just don't think that they will.
No, now who do they have coming home? I'm not quite sure.
It's not a terrible run. I've got it here. They play Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval this week.
Yeah.
Which is, just a must-win game if you want to play the finals. If they lose that, they'll start to slip, obviously. But
bit of bad blood though coming from Adelaide after they got spanked during the year from them.
Yes, true. Then they play the Suns at the G, which is a win. They play the Swans at the G, which again, if you got to win to make the finals, then they'll have to earn their spot. They play the Eagles over there at Optus, and they finish with the Giants at the G, which could be an absolute. So I mean, they're not guaranteed. I mean, you're not guaranteed anything in this current competition, but you got to think that you can pencil in probably 2 of them, and the other 3, they're going to have to really earn their spot. But I think they will. I mean, again, for the sake of, a kick, they've lost by a kick after the siren, and I mean, it sort of continues to haunt them, those close losses. So maybe it'll be another year where they're left with those sort of regrets, and it's been since 2006.
But at the same time, they're 1 win out of the 4.
It's very true, and they could finish on top.
It's actually a great year. If you're saying GWS in 4, who's going to drop out of Collingwood and Sydney?
Sydney won't make the top
So you think
4.
Collingwood will?
Collingwood will probably stay in the top 4 now. Yeah, I've sort of long said that.
Yeah, I think they might too. Actually,
I think that they'll probably hang on not hang on. I think they've played really well, and they'll earn their spot in the top 4 there. And then I think Hawthorn will probably be the one that drops out. I think it's probably a race in 9 now. I think even though Hawthorn would be so dangerous.
So you're telling me that Essendon's not going to win their next 5?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All right. Crazy things have happened, but you're probably right.
We saw, back to that Melbourne-Geelong game, a moment of controversy, if you will. I'm not going to call it controversy, actually, because it was one of the most ridiculous topics I think we've heard all year. The Bernie Vince, Patrick Dangerfield discussion after the game, I guess would be the best word for it. Post Zach Tui's game winner after the siren. Old mates obviously played Adelaide together. Bernie Vince and Patrick Dangerfield were seen chatting pretty amicably after the game, which then led to... I mean, I've heard it's led to criticism. I only heard, I think, the first criticism of it yesterday when Dermot Brereton lined him up in the paper.
Right.
But I sort of thought until then it was a bit of a media beat-up. What'd you make of it all?
At the time, because I actually watched that game, it was awesome finish. Because I was going for Demons as well, because I'm just, Geelong have had their run for the last decade. When they lost, it was because, for me, I thought maybe he shouldn't have been that up and about that quickly after the game, only because of how visibly upset his teammates were at the exact same time. Obviously, after that, though, I do tend to agree that it was a media beat-up. Maybe it could have been a passing comment, like, oh, how about that? But then, obviously, they were teammates at Adelaide together. And I'm not sure if a lot of people realised that at the time. I didn't register it at the time. But then when I heard that, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But as you said, really a non-story. But at the time, I was like, oh, Bernie's smiling. At the same time, Petrarca's crying.
Yeah, I just think that there's, absolutely nothing in it. I watched the game, as I said, at the same time. And, I saw it and it didn't even register. I just think that, and as I said, I haven't heard that. Everyone's been talking about it, but no one's really criticised it. And I think, it was just another narrative. And then they have to ask him about it in a press conference. See the photo that we'll put up now, which was sort of released yesterday, of Bernie. So the Geelong players celebrating in the background post to his goal, literally as he's kicked it, he's getting mobbed. And Bernie Vince is in the foreground of it. We'll put it up on our socials as well for those listening, audio only here. And Bernie Vince is about to fall to the ground with his head in his hands.
Yeah.
So just because a minute later he takes the opportunity to chat to Patrick Dangerfield, who he sees probably once, twice, three times a year. I just think it was a huge media beat up, but also just not even as if he doesn't care. If it was in game, if Tui's lining up for a shot or something, he's standing there, but I just
so you're saying there is a limit to the time after the siren's gone when you can just go, whatever.
Not a limit. I just don't think that, I don't think it reflects poorly on him. I don't think it shows that he doesn't care just because a minute after he's happy to have a wry smile with an old mate about, I think they were talking about his dad's health or something. His dad was feeling better. I don't know, obviously, the whole context of the thing, but it was about his old man and between the two of them that they shared a private conversation, which, and, I don't know if there's any fans out there that actually had an issue with it. If Carlton got beaten, I'm not...
Actually, a friend of mine who's a Melbourne supporter also lives here. He did. He had a little problem with it.
They're precious then.
Yeah,
precious, but maybe that's where we're at.
His point was he was quite blunt about it. He thought that Bernie isn't going to be a part of their success going forward. That's what he said.
Well, I agree, but
I totally agree that it was a media beat up. I've said all year that there's too many journos, not enough stories, and a lot of people do say that, and it's a cliche for a reason. But there's too many football journos. They're non-stories, but they gotta earn a bit of money.
Gotta fill column inches.
We're talking about it now, so
yeah, that's true. And we're not getting paid, so. The deliberate rush behind was something that I thought was pretty much dead and buried.
Was this?
It was the rule that was. It was the rule a season or two ago. They were hot on it and this and that, and then I haven't hardly seen it paid. I actually can't recall the last one before the one I saw on the weekend, and I thought that is the worst decision of the season.
Is this in the GWS?
GWS Port Adelaide.
Yeah,
I could not believe what I was seeing. He chasing a ball frantically back to the sort of, it was heading towards the behind post.
Yeah.
So it was either touch and go between a throw in deep in the Giants' defensive 50 or going through for a point. Heath literally pretty much on the line, sticks his hand out, grabs the ball, his momentum takes him through the points in which he was about half a metre away from, and the umpire pays this deliberate like it was...
Was it going through the behinds anyway as well?
I haven't seen the right angle, but it probably wasn't, but he sort of stuck his arm out and grabbed it, and literally it was within half a metre of him changing that trajectory.
His opponent or an opponent?
A few metres away, but he was moving. He was not. He didn't stop and be able to sort of take it all in.
Yeah.
And it was honestly probably the worst decision I think I've seen all year. It was just there's just no feel for the game. It was just and then it was just a shocker.
And it could turn the momentum as well, which
you just hate to think that someone's interpretation. I understand that, maybe the game is tough to umpire with all these different rules and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But, I mean, don't make it harder for yourself, I don't think, by...
Yeah, did the AFL come out and say that was the wrong decision?
I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything. They probably have got bigger fish to fry.
And has that been a bit of a beat-up online? I haven't really...
No, actually. I heard a bit of it Monday, but, there was I didn't see too much about it.
It's funny, the media world we live in, no one talks about this shocking call that was terrible and, as you said, one of the worst you've seen. But everyone wants to talk about Bernie Vince smiling at the end of the game.
If it had been one of the hot rules at the moment, if it had been the ruck infringement, which we saw Saturday night as well, or if it had been one of the protected area free kicks, we would have heard heaps about it. But just on that ruck thing, what do you make of that? What do you make of that, the nominating and the... we had that Dangerfield one.
Yeah, well, I played a lot of ruck growing up, and when they first introduced the rule, I wasn't sure even if it was necessary to come in the first place. And now we see all the congestion and stuff like that. I'm of the belief that no third man up actually contributes to that. So I used to think a third man up would actually come and full on spoil the ball outside the immediate zone, which would actually get a run on effect from someone. So I think it's a shit rule. However, it was the correct decision because that is the rule. The rule. So it was a brain fart almost from which every time it gets paid, it's actually it's the player being not thinking straight.
I am in the minority here, but I don't really get what the issue is with it. They nominate, two people go up. I like the no third man up because that was due to ruckman, getting jumped into where they couldn't prepare themselves. Someone coming over the back of them, putting their knee in their back and thumping the ball away.
But how many times did that actually happen? I mean, it did, but no serious injuries.
No, but it obviously got to the point where they were sort of, cautious of it being an issue. So I think that, and I mean, I just don't get so again, I was watching it with the Melbourne mate who blew up over the decision, and it's like Patrick Dangerfield put his hand up, nominated, the umpire said Max and Paddy, and then Brayshaw wasn't aware. Yeah. So if you didn't hear him, whatever.
So it's the rule that your Melbourne mate is upset with, not the decision. The decision's correct.
No, he was upset with the decision as well.
Yeah, no, I know, but what he should be upset with is the rule because the decision was rightfully paid.
Yeah, the decision was correct, but I don't even get what all the, it blew up Twitter and everyone's like, what a joke, this, that, the other, bending the rules. Someone called Patrick Dangerfield a cheat on Twitter.
What's Patrick Dangerfield got to do
with
anything?
And I thought, he's just contesting the ruck.
It's funny how they actually have to, I don't know about actually putting your hand up and saying I'm in the ruck, It's fairly obvious.
It's a bit childish, isn't it?
It is a little bit childish.
It's a bit kiddie, but I just don't see what the issue is. Yes, it might take a bit more time.
Yeah.
But I just don't. I don't really see the hatred of it. It doesn't. I don't sit there and go, "Oh, look at him nominate."
Well, I just don't think it needed to be implemented in the first place.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, I'm a part of 100,000 people, a tribe.
Congratulations, Richmond.
Richmond, incredible,
Footy club, 100,000 members. That's unheard of, actually. Really, to be honest. And
literally, it's unheard of because it's never happened before.
Unheard of. So how many are going to be at the game this weekend between Richmond and Collingwood?
You'd think they'd have 120, wouldn't they? 120,000.
120,000, you reckon?
They just pile them in there. No, they'll get 80 odd.
80 odd? You don't think more?
No. 80, they won't get 90.
Is that because of the time and when it is on Saturday?
It could be. I mean, Saturday's long been one of the marquee fixtures, but I think that with the emergence of local footy and stuff like that, I mean, that sort of shifts it around a bit. But I mean, when else? If you played on a Friday night, how many would you get?
Close to 90, I reckon.
Yeah. And then maybe a Sunday afternoon. People hate Sundays though.
Sundays suck.
Sundays shit. People just hate everything.
It's always cold and windy down at Etihad, and it's just, why am I even here? Essendon playing North Melbourne, who cares?
So, I mean, that'll be a cracking game, and I mean, I'm sure that we'll see both. I mean, what do Collingwood have? Collingwood would have 80,000 members, wouldn't
easily, they? Yeah. Do you reckon we're going to have a record-breaking tackles in this game?
A what?
Both tackles. Both teams love tackling.
Okay.
Love the pressure. Who plays the offensive game? Because both teams usually bounce off their defensive pressure.
Richmond.
So who do they just sort of leave the ball in the middle and then sort of just shimmy across it, just who's going to go?
Richmond will beat Collingwood.
I wouldn't be surprised if Collingwood get up and then could be a healthy loss for Richmond going into the finals.
They lost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but at the G,
They can't lose at the G.
there you heard it here first. They can't lose at the G. Hey, Jake,
Hey, Ben.
how are you?
Good, you?
Good, mate.
Fine.
Should we get to some Twitter stuff?
Let's go. We actually had a bit this week, didn't we?
We did. Very active on the Twitter sphere, which was good.
Yeah.
We ran a poll during the week. Segregating became a bit of a hot topic
Yeah,
for
because
all
you
of,
keep getting in crowd fights. That's
all
why.
of 3 minutes. Yeah, well, fuck. Some people just deserve it. Sorry.
F words. Well,
F words for not even.
yeah,
No
you're
apparent
obviously
reason.
passionate about
Sorry for all the
segregation.
Cooter fans who have
Yeah.
heard the profanity on the show. So segregating has become a bit of a question whether or not fans should be split up from other fans. I can't even do this without laughing. I mean, it's ridiculous.
What a remark. Imagine not being able to go to the footy with your mate, or like my girlfriend breaks for Essendon, we go to Carlton Essendon, we've got to sit on separate wings or something
Separate wings.
this with a walkie-talkie.
That would be awesome. Then it'd be
Carlton are in front, sucked in. Over.
we ran a poll during the week saying, do you think segregating crowds based on which team you support is necessary? A whopping no was 92%.
Good.
8%.
You know who's doing a good job? The young social media intern. He's back,
Yeah,
I reckon.
good
He's had
on
a
him.
quiet few weeks, just doing the regular sort of stuff. But
Yeah. I
he's
like
going
him.
all right, the young fella.
Apparently he's quite handsome too, but I don't know.
Well-
We'll have to. I've never met him.
But should come to more meetings.
My question is, who in their right mind voted yes?
I can't.
8% is still at least one person in that poll.
8% of people are idiots.
What
That's
is
what we've been
wrong
able to
with it? I
take
mean,
away.
What
What is wrong with them?
But like AFL aside, segregating in any sort of avenue is not good for anyone.
It's like real concentration camp sort of stuff.
Yeah,
But what they're going off, right, is the English Premier League model,
Yeah.
where because they just brawl, or the soccer, sorry, I shouldn't just say English Premier League. The soccer is that they split them, but that's also because they've got
fucking nutcases.
stop swearing. They've got plenty more fans than they've got seats in their stadiums.
Yeah.
So they've got to allocate certain amounts, but then they only give like slight bays to travelling teams.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where that sort of goes, because it's not a safe environment for 2,000 travelling fans to go in front of 25,000 other fans. But
Plus, they do take it a little more personal.
yeah,
as well,
and
don't
it's
they?
it's like their own area sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like those, what do they call them? Forms, don't they? Like
Firms?
what?
Firms.
Firms, that's
Yeah.
right. Forms,
Yeah, a bit of Green Street
forms.
hooligans.
Yeah, firms.
Yeah.
Forms.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting.
Still
yeah.
correct.
Fill out the form. Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
no, because I
No.
said the wrong word.
Whatever.
But yeah, that segregation in the AFL, I mean, the whole thing about our game is that you can go with your mates and sit where you want
Yeah.
and buy different tickets. And
Yeah.
I understand that you've got to get rid of troublemakers. I mean, if people are turning up drunk and getting in fights, ban them. No issue there. But
But I think they've made leaps and bounds in the last 10 years. Like it's pretty good as a whole.
I just think it comes down to more, from all the reports from Saturday night's fight, is that there was like customer service people who were trying to wave down police and security. It's like, well, up your, those people can't do anything. They're just there
Yeah.
to like tell people where to sit.
Yeah,
like,
the camera system's pretty good though. Like if you do start any trouble, you will be found
we'd
out.
like to think so, but I mean, the thing is that there's these kids around and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just not an ideal environment, because that's what's
No,
going
but
to turn
then
people.
you just
That'll
protect
turn
them.
people away more than it will
I
the state of the
agree. I
game.
agree.
Like,
Totally.
we're talking, state of the game forever and a day, but this is what you got to get rid of, because I mean, if I'm going to take it, I don't have a kid, but if I had a child, I'm not going to take them to the footy over, if there's two factors, if they're going to say the game's going to be shit, or there's going to be a massive crowd fight right near where you're sitting, I'd rather watch a shit game of footy 1,000 times. I'd rather
You're
watch
going to say, I wouldn't mind seeing a fight for free.
Well, it depends how far away I was, because I'm a lover, not a fighter.
You would have that problem at Carlton games too with the way they play. Might be exciting actually watching a fight. For those listening, Jake has given me the evilest of eyes you could possibly.
What else did we have on Twitter?
I totally agree with you though. Segregating is a big no.
92% of the Magoo's community are on board,
And they're very smart, the Magoo's community. Keep
except
it up.
8% of them.
Except for 8%. That's a big percentage. I reckon. The other one we had was another really good question. Was basically asking at the moment who is the best sort of captain / leader at your
I asked him to put this one up. I asked him to put this one up because I knew that it wouldn't get the response that I wanted to talk about.
Right.
Which sort of validated me more. I mean, I might be accused of being very heavily Giants based, but we only had one of the tweets that came through, which was from our good friend Lucas Avramov, who's changed his handle actually.
Ooh, has he?
He's now just at Lucas Avramov. I think he's dropped the 12
out
of his handle, which is interesting.
Maybe he's grown up. He's 13 now.
No, it doesn't have a number there.
Moving on.
So he said Ward and Davis go underrated, and that's where I was angling. I wanted to see if people rated them because I reckon they're two of the best. I know they're co-captains. They're two of the best three in the game for mine, 3 or 4 in the game.
So do you think you're guilty then of manipulating a question on Twitter for our community to sort of back your own bias? Is that what you're saying?
No. I asked for the question to go up to see if maybe me thinking they were underrated was wrong. So I was hoping that if everyone came back and said Ward and Davis, GWS got it sold, then perfect. But
the thing is, there are a lot of great captains.
Oh, for sure there are, and I mean, pretty much every AFL captain brings something to the table.
Yeah.
So that's why they're captains of their
others,
club.
though.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And I mean, what other responses do we get? Do you have them down there?
We had a couple for Pendlebury, which I tend to agree with as well.
Yeah,
Hearn and Selwood. Selwood had
that was
quite a number. Selwood's just been doing it year in, year out now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, he's just hard as a cat's head, isn't he?
Yeah.
Classic.
I think we had one for Cochin. None for my mate Dyson, which I reckon he's had a really good year as a captain.
I think that he's just like one of your regular captains in terms of like does a good job and he plays good footy
but no one's going, whoa, watch that. When Pendlebury gets the ball, everyone just raves.
That's the thing. Pendlebury, as Mitch Harris tweeted us and pointed out, he said Pendlebury and Cochin, and he references their fourth quarters in big games. Pendlebury's against Essendon a few weeks ago, which was massive, and Cochin's in the prelim last year. So I think that.
We had one from our good mate Matt Hillman.
Yeah.
He also said Pendlebury, but he also said Fife. What are your thoughts on Fife being a great captain? Not sure.
Interesting guy. Interesting sort of fella. Love to have him on the show.
Yeah.
But great captain. It's interesting. I wish you had given some more context there, Matt.
What angle? Because no one's denying he's a great footballer.
I think he'd be probably seen as one of the more individual captains of the AFL. But, I mean, he's obviously a great player, and, I mean, I've listened to him speak a few times on a couple of different programs, and he is sort of trying to mould a bit more around, not around team, but...
Yeah. But they have done a lot better this year than people had thought.
For sure.
They make everything bloody scrap.
Another interesting one I saw was from Riley O'Donnell. He said his unbiased answer was Shannon Hearn and Nathan Jones, which was the only time we had Nathan Jones come through.
Jonesy, yeah.
He's put up with with Jack Viney.
That's right, yeah.
He's put up with a lot, hasn't he, Nathan Jones? I mean,
if there's anyone who deserves the Magoo's moment of the decade, it would probably be, only because they were crap for so long, but he came through the other end, unscathed.
Still hasn't played in a final since 2006, and that was his first year.
Well,
has he come out the other end yet? If they miss, but that's that's why I think Melbourne are a good side, but I don't like Melbourne. Right, I've got a few Melbourne friends, and they annoy me.
Yeah, it tends to be a thing. The more friends you have that go for a club, the less you like them if you don't go for the club.
Yeah, the closer I am with a friend, the more I dislike their club.
Yeah, it's bang on.
But Nathan Jones has put up with a lot of nonsense, and he's a good leader. He's a very good leader. Yeah. He's very put the team on the back and let's go sort of thing. Yeah. You'd really have to go to war with him, I think.
Well, wouldn't like to go to war
at all,
in general.
At all. But if you had to, you'd take Nathan Jones.
Yeah.
Back to the original point that Lucas Avramov hit on Twitter. Make sure you follow us at the Magoos _ plug. Ward and Davis go underrated. I couldn't agree more. The way that they share that load so well and in different parts of the ground, and Davis killed Dixon on the weekend, and Callum Ward week in, week out, he is every bit as good as Joel Selwood.
Wow.
In every aspect.
Huge.
and it's obviously he's up there in the Greater Western of Sydney.
Yeah.
So you
there's
sort
not
of
in the
lose a little
spotlight.
bit, but he is incredible, and I'm glad that it's sort of starting to get noticed a little bit because those two guys are supreme leaders
Out
and
of the
amongst
10
the very
replies,
best.
it noticed once. So.
Yeah, and now I'm
Which is about the
noticing
same
again.
percentage. I'm wondering if Lucas was that guy who voted to have segregated
Is it
crowds.
8%? What also, while we're talking the socials, Wednesday morning it sort of came out that the AFL will be trialling or planning to trial the new rules, some of the new proposed rules that may come in from 2019 onwards in some of the dead rubber games coming up. So, yeah. So St Kilda versus the Bulldogs, for instance, they're about the only two clubs I could think that would be involved in.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe Gold Coast and Brisbane. I can't really see any other clubs getting involved.
I mean, maybe go
Fremantle.
versus Carlton.
Yeah, that could be a chance.
Carlton versus anyone. As a club that wouldn't be affected by this whatsoever, I love the idea. No, I don't. I really.
So
I think I think it's actually not only is it disrespectful to the fans of those clubs who are actually going to watch it, it's still for 4 points and that's still
it's a compromised competition.
and it's still history in terms of statistics and those sort of things. You'd have to have an asterisk beside those.
It doesn't make any sense. So we put the question out on Twitter asking if a game like Carlton Gold Coast, if it was worthwhile the AFL trialling the new rules in a dead rubber game like Suns and the Blues, and 17% of people said yes. So that section of our audience has grown from 8 to 17, which is alarming. And no was 83%. So we are losing some of the sane members of the Magoos community. But no, we do appreciate everyone who gets involved and weighs in
absolutely.
on the socials. As I said, make sure you're following at the Magoos _. But there's always something to play for, right? There's always and be it draft picks. You compromise the whole competition if you're playing by a different set of rules.
Yeah.
Let's only take the ball up to halfway.
Yeah.
So
Or maybe at halftime we play cornhole in Alabama. What do you think?
It's just so Gold Coast and Brisbane, right? So they're vying for picks 2 and 3, or not vying for, but that's what they'll end up with, 2, 3 or 4, whatever. So say Gold Coast beat Brisbane because in this new 6-6-6 zones, that suits their game style more.
Yeah.
So they beat Brisbane. Brisbane get a better draft pick, but then next year they don't bring those rules in. So Gold Coast play quite well with them well enough. It suits them well enough at the moment that they win, for instance. And then they end up, jumping Brisbane and St Kilda on the basis of that win, end up with pick 4 instead of pick 2. Brisbane get pick 2, pick up Sam Walsh, the Jet midfielder from Vic Country. He goes on to play 350 games for Brisbane, wins 3 Brownlows, helps him and Rayner take him to premierships, while Gold Coast get pick 4, who say he stays there his whole journey, isn't as good, doesn't turn out.
Goes back home halfway
Based
through
on
his career.
Well,
He's homesick.
even if he doesn't, even if they choose 2 players who both stay in Queensland their whole time,
Yeah.
I just think that it compromises everything. Playing to say that there are dead rubber fixtures. If the AFL admit that there's dead rubber fixtures,
Then there's a problem.
oh, that's a bigger problem than any congestion.
Yeah.
Like if they're saying we've handpicked a whole lot of games that don't matter, but still go to them, still go and watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, still give us the money. Like,
That's why I like you, Jake. You think through it. You don't just go, I like that or I don't like that, which is what I tend to do a lot. But that's an excellent point.
Thank you.
But when they did say dead rubber, they just meant finals, didn't they?
yeah, they meant no impact on the finals.
Yeah, but you're absolutely 100% correct when you're talking about it doesn't mean nothing, as you just said.
I didn't say it doesn't mean nothing.
Well, you know what I mean.
Double negatives.
Yeah, all right, thanks. Thanks,
classic.
Mr. Lambert.
So that's it for the Magoo's Twitter.
Well, there was one thing I
socials.
saw on Twitter from our good mate Jack Fitzpatrick. He was back on round 7, our first guest. He after the Geelong and Melbourne game, obviously an awesome game, he tweeted, "Leave the game alone. F your zones, your rules, your absolute bullshit. There's nothing wrong with our great game." Fitzy, well done.
Welcome back anytime.
Welcome back. He's probably listening. He loves the show.
A great segue, actually. That was unplanned, but the Magoo's moment of the
Most
week.
of the show.
The Magoo's moment this week came to my attention due to a Jack Fitzpatrick tweet.
you know what? I think I know what you're talking about because I saw that and I thought I'll tag Jake in that. I didn't, but I thought about it.
Alex Woodward for the Magoo's moment of the week. Former Hawk, obviously teammate of Jack Fitzpatrick. That's why Jack was getting around him on the socials. He's now playing for the VFL Magpies. He's had 4 knee reconstructions. I just held up 4 fingers
Thank
to you for whatever reason.
Well, I did double negative earlier. So.
4 knee reconstructions. So I believe Nathan Buckley asked him to go there and be the runner at Collingwood. Keep him in footy and stuff. And then he sort of was coming back from his knee reconstruction, and so he's now playing for the VFL Magpies. Collected another 31 disposals on the weekend, and he's averaging 29 touches from his 3 games since he returned from his 4th knee reconstruction. I mean, that is a Magoo's moment if ever I've heard one. Hopefully, I mean, if he can continue that sort of form and get rookie listed somewhere, that'd be a real...
Yeah, so you can't see him playing ones at Collingwood, but you do.
But he's not listed.
Well, he's not. Okay, but do you think he could get picked up from them? Or
Yeah, for sure. I think anyone could pick him up from come the end of the year, and I'd like to say I'd hope Collingwood would. I mean,
give him that first.
Yeah,
chance.
like would have that crack at just whacking him on a rookie list. If he's, I mean, it's only 3 games, but if his good form continues, then he was always pretty heavily touted at Hawthorn. But then, unfortunately, the injuries just get the better of you.
It's a
lot of Ricos, isn't it? A lot of Ricos. Yeah. But yeah, so that's our Magoo's moment for the week. Something that I also want to, while we're talking a little bit of human interest, something I want to run by you. I saw a really, really interesting story on Josh Jenkins last night. It was on Today Tonight South Australia, which I watch regularly.
Oh, wow, don't we all?
Yeah. But yeah, this was a really, really good story. It was, I sort of thought about, Magoo's momenting it, but it's not really a Magoo's moment. It's just that real human interest side and something that I guess the point I'm sort of trying to make is that a lot of people don't realise that and while they're well paid, that players have had their own difficulties and upbringings and things like that. Whereas Josh Jenkins was abandoned by his parents when he was 2 years old and spent his life in a... I can't believe you swear so much.
I whispered that time.
Poor timing too.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was shocked. I didn't know that.
And he and his brother and sister were taken in by a stranger who they didn't know, who they call Grandma. Wow. And she raised them in Swan Hill. And so he was speaking about his his life of, like they sort of knew his parents like from afar sort of thing. Like his dad would always say, "Oh, we'll come and pick you up and take you here," and then would never show up and all that sort of stuff. So raised by, she was 60 when she took him in, this lady who'd already raised 6 children of her own.
Wow.
And so, I mean, Josh Jenkins he's a really good media profile. Like, I mean, he's sort of building into that life post footy, whatever. And he's just about to have his first child. So I just thought it was worth sort of touching on because players are pretty heavily criticised, and I mean they get paid well from the footy perspective, but heavily trolled online for opinions and the way they play and the character they sort of portray, I guess. But yeah, it's also probably just worth the thought that they are humans and that so many of them have had so much go on in their lives that it's
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really touching story, and I thought it sort of fitted in nicely just while we're talking Magoo's moment sort of stuff.
It's just a shame that it was on Today Tonight. Probably deserves a better show than that.
Program.
So Jake, we are back this time with the Kane Corns of the week.
Yeah, we had a week off last week with Cooter, and
we
our
did
ratings
have a
have
bye.
never been higher. No Kane Corns, the highest ratings we've ever had.
Also, no Magoo's moment, but let's just cherry
but
pick
people love
whatever
that.
statistics we want.
Yeah, absolutely.
8% of Magoo's community say you're an idiot.
Just suit your narrative, whatever you want to
Well, I actually was going to give it to Bernie, but we chatted about that earlier. So
do. Because you changed your opinion. That's why you've.
Well, as I said, you like to think things all the way through, which is great. Some of us have to do that.
Sometimes it's a trait that I.
Didn't you think when you asked on Twitter, or when our intern asked about who's the best, leaders at the moment, I reckon you were hoping someone would even chuck your name in there. The Kane Corns of the week for round 19. It's going to Julian De Stoop of Fox Footy.
Yep.
Which I sort of feel bad because I actually like Jules. I think he's, in terms of the journos, I reckon he just tells the news. Sort of, he doesn't go investigating, digging out stories,
Opinions and stuff.
Yeah. But he stated on the weekend ahead of the Sydney versus Suns game that he believed that Josh Kennedy, the captain of Sydney, wasn't going to play. Now I'll just run a little clip just for reference.
Jules, just on the team selection, before I let you go, I just wanted on the record, did you or did you not say that Josh Kennedy, if he plays against the Suns, that you will run to Sydney?
I did say that, but just because he's been named tonight, Nez, it doesn't mean he's going to play. You're not going to risk Josh Kennedy, captain of the Sydney Swans, in a home game against the Gold Coast after a back injury, so expect him to be a late withdrawal on the weekend.
Interesting. My mail may suggest otherwise. Watch this space.
Interesting from
Jules.
Very interesting from Jules. I hope he's got a good pair of sneakers, Jake, because he's on his way.
He's on the trot.
He's on the trot as we speak. The MCG to the SCG is 879 kilometres. I Google mapped it. It's about an 8-day walk. So, Jules, good on you, mate. Josh Kennedy, not only did he play, but he had 33 disposals, 8 tackles, 5 marks, and 134 fantasy points. Julian?
Dear me.
You got the Kane corns of the week.
Well, there you go. Ben's holding up the corn now for those people who can't see it.
I'm actually not.
Waving it around frantically. He's eating the corn.
Ooh. Yeah. So what do you reckon?
Jules. Eh?
Jules.
Every time you announce a Cane Corns of the Week, I try and visualise where they fit into the Cane Corns team of the year. Like the Cane Corns of the Week team of the year. Like, where does Jules play? Is he a nuggety back pocket? Does he sort of... Well, I mean, the thing is, he's going to be really tired because he's going to have to run to Sydney. So, I mean, he'll either be really fit, depending on, if you want to whack him in a midfield rotation, or you might just want to rest him in a forward pocket.
I don't think he's going to be a midfield rotator. No.
Especially not with Patrick Dangerfield, who you put in there earlier. I mean, he'll do it on his own.
Geez, no one's lost sleep over that, have they?
It was like round 3.
Don't forget.
Long memories, like elephants, us Danger fans.
Coming into round 19, it's actually going to be a pretty interesting round, I reckon.
They all are. All rounds are interesting.
All rounds are interesting.
Because there's games.
That's all from us,
games
guys.
have to be won. Games have to be won.
Friday night, Essendon versus Sydney. Now, I know I'm an Essendon supporter, but they are in form.
You know you're an Essendon supporter.
I know that. You know
when
that.
Did you realise that?
Just before I was going to say, I think it's going to be a good game being at Etihad on Friday night.
Sydney will win.
Okay, Sydney might win. Essendon
they
might
will
win also. But
No.
I think, Sydney losing on the weekend against the Suns, they would want to be coming out when we already spoke about their run home.
Yeah, they'll come out.
It is difficult. They need to
fire.
get the wins when they can.
They'll come out breathing fire.
And then obviously Saturday day, Richmond Collingwood. Game of the round, I would suggest.
Yep.
You reckon?
Oh,
Or you reckon it's
obviously.
going to be Gold Coast Cup?
No, 1 versus 3. I think that, probably, not probably, but a possible grand final preview.
Geez, you go for Carlton, I'll go for Essendon. What would
Yes, that is correct. If you're just tuning in.
What would you feel if it was a Richmond versus Collingwood grand final?
Not sure I'd watch it. What's to be gained of seeing that? Either way, I'm going to be upset, and my Facebook and Instagram and Twitter is going to be ruined. I might put my phone in a blender and go to sleep for a month.
Oh, God. What else is there? We've got Adelaide, Melbourne.
Yep.
At Adelaide.
Losers faces an uphill battle.
Well, I think if
Adelaide
Adelaide lose, they're out of the finals.
Adelaide are gone
for sure.
anyway.
I
But
think
if
they're
Melbourne
going to.
drop this, then...
But it's at that point of the year where it's like, well, you might not make the finals, but you at least should try and beat those teams to keep them out. That's a great feeling.
Rattle
That's
a few
what Carlton
cages
really
sort of thing.
Hey?
Rattle a few cages.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of question marks. North versus West Coast. Not sure. Would you reckon that'll be?
Where is it? Is it here?
It is here at Etihad on Sunday.
No, it's not at Etihad.
It's not? Oh, sorry. It's at Blundstone Arena.
Yep.
Yeah. Apologies.
Yeah,
Or
but
you
that makes it very... North hard to beat down there. HTB.
Yeah. HT.
Hard to beat.
Freo Hawthorn last game of the round. It's in Fremantle.
It's that tricky thing that Hawthorn have got to win, but, Freo over there, different
Freo
kettle
have
of
been
fish.
great at home this year. Really good.
Really good.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, it just sort of gets to that stage of the year where those sort of in between games, you sort of think because they're so much pressure is on Hawthorn in that game. Freo play with no pressure.
absolutely, yeah.
So it's just like it's the same in a sense with the Adelaide game, with Melbourne, even Geelong playing Brisbane down at
thinking
GMHBA
that,
Stadium. All those games, and yes, they're more motivated, so most of the time those teams win it. But if they can't cope with the pressure, or if you sort of start to freeze up and all those sort of things, then it just sort of adds another element to these games, which are usually fait accompli.
Yeah.
But
It's a good test for those teams as well because, if, as you said, if you do freeze up in round 19, you probably don't deserve to be playing finals.
yeah, so it just sort of just adds another element to the games. That, I mean, doesn't add any element to Gold Coast versus Carlton, but
No.
but unless we're playing 6v6, take the ball up to halfway, call your own fouls, all that sort of stuff.
We're bringing in obstruction rules.
Bit of street ball. Just to sign off today, saw something online which really sparked my interest. Now, let me play it for you because it's sort of done the rounds. It hasn't had as much coverage as I would have thought, but just take a listen. So this is Charlie Sheen watching the AFL.
All right, this game makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. I think the only way that this mystery would ever be deciphered for me is to have it explained in person. Well, the good news is I'm coming to Australia in early November. I'll be in Sydney, I'll be in Melbourne, so I'm counting on you to come out to the show and please, somebody in person in Australia, explain how all this works. Cheers, mate.
So that's Charlie Sheen, pretty much saying, "Can I come on your show, Magoos?"
Well, I'm not sure if he's visiting Melbourne, but he did say Melbourne. Is that
Melbourne,
near-
yes,
near
yeah.
here? Yeah.
So I believe that.
So
he
you think
means
of what
here.
I'm thinking? Do you reckon we ask our community and ourselves that we will really hone in and try and make
Get
Charlie
Charlie.
know that this is a great footy podcast?
And we'll explain it to him.
Oh,
God, can you imagine if he ended up in this house? That might be the end of all of you.
yeah.
Charlie Sheen's all of a sudden living in the back room in Preston.
With all his tiger blood in him and all the...
But yeah, so that's what we've decided, that we will be the people to direct Charlie Sheen on how Australian rules football works, how it's played. We'll get him a team. We'll do all of that. So Charlie Sheen, if you happen to be watching, make sure.
Watch this space.
Yeah, because Charlie, we're the show for you. We will explain to you all things to do with AFL when you're here in Melbourne in November. So looking forward to having you on our special summer edition that we'll have to put together.
And maybe he can teach us a thing or two about cornhole.
Yes, yeah, we'll put that in the maybe pile. Not sure if he's a big cornhole man, but Ben, we've reached the end of the round 19 episode of the Magoos. The footy's certainly heating up as we get towards September. You were pretty good again.
great.
No Cooter this week, obviously, but I thought we put together a pretty good show. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will catch you next week on the Magoos.
See ya.